You can see someone's true character by watching what they do when it costs them something, and who they become when no one's there to see it. Most people miss these moments. They focus on words, on promises, on surface-level gestures, and that's exactly how they get controlled. Here's what they don't tell you. People perform. They wear masks so convincing that even they forget they're acting. You think you know someone because they've been kind to you, because they've shown up when it was easy, because they said the right things at the right time. But that's not character. That's strategy. Real character only shows itself under pressure and in privacy. Everything else is theater. I'm going to show you how to see through that theater, not by analyzing their words or trusting your gut. Those fail. Words are rehearsed, instincts are manipulated. What you need is a system, a psychological framework that cuts through performance and exposes intention. Because the people who want to control you aren't monsters. They're not obviously dangerous. They're charming, patient. They smile while they catalog your weaknesses. They listen while they build a file on how to use you later. And if you can't identify them before they strike, you've already lost. This isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming aware. You're about to learn the 8 psychological mechanisms that manipulators use to control, guilt, and trap you, and the exact patterns that reveal them before they get close. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And once you can't unsee them, no one will ever control you again. Let's begin. Every friendly gesture has a motive. Psychology calls it masking empathy, using warmth to disarm before control. You see it everywhere. The colleague who compliments you before asking for a favor. The friend who listens intently, then uses your words against you later. Smiles aren't kindness, they're reconnaissance. People study you while pretending to care. And the moment you believe their warmth is genuine, you've already lost the advantage. Emotion makes you blind to strategy. I've watched this pattern repeat in boardrooms, relationships, political negotiations. The one who smiles first often strikes last. It's not cynicism, it's survival. When someone approaches with excessive friendliness, they're testing your boundaries. They're measuring how much you'll give before you notice you're being drained. Dominance doesn't announce itself with aggression. It arrives wrapped in charm, patience, and calculated interest. The predator never looks like a threat until the trap closes. You think you can tell the difference between real warmth and manipulation? You can't. Not reliably. Because the best manipulators don't just fake empathy. They feel it momentarily, then weaponize it without hesitation. They mirror your energy, match your vulnerability, make you feel seen. And while you're basking in that false connection, they're cataloging your weaknesses. Every confession you make, every insecurity you reveal, it's ammunition, stored, indexed, ready for deployment when you stop being useful. Here's what most people miss. The smile isn't the weapon. Your need to believe in it is. You want connection so badly that you ignore the inconsistencies. The friend who only calls when they need something. The partner who's affectionate only when you're about to leave. The boss who praises you in public but undermines you in private. You see the pattern, but you rationalize it. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, cynical, unfair. That's exactly what they're counting on. Your decency becomes your weakness. Watch how people treat waiters, assistants, anyone they don't need to impress. That's who they really are. Everything else is performance. When someone shows you warmth only when it benefits them, that's not inconsistency. That's strategy. True character doesn't change based on audience. But most people wear masks so well they forget they're wearing them. The smile becomes automatic. The concern becomes rehearsed. And you, desperate for approval and connection, accept the performance as truth. But here's the uncomfortable reality. If you can't recognize the mask, you can't see what's underneath it. And what's underneath is always calculating whether you're worth the effort, whether you can be controlled, whether your boundaries can be tested without consequence. When someone gives you constant approval, they're buying influence. The moment you depend on it, you're theirs. Validation is the oldest tool in the psychology of control. It feels like love, like respect, like finally being seen. But it's a transaction. They praise you when you comply. They withdraw when you resist. And slowly, without noticing, you start bending yourself to keep that approval flowing. You think you're being appreciated. You're being trained. I learned this watching a mentor destroy talented people with kindness. He'd single them out, tell them they were special, different from everyone else. They'd work twice as hard to prove him right. Then, the moment they questioned him or showed independence, the warmth vanished. No explanation, just cold distance. They'd spiral, desperate to understand what they did wrong. He never told them, he just waited. Within days, they'd come back more compliant than before. That's the power of withdrawal. Once you've tasted validation, its absence becomes unbearable. You'll do anything to get it back. Most people don't realize they're addicted to approval until it's taken away. You shape your opinions to match the room. You soften your boundaries to avoid conflict. You say yes when you mean no, because rejection feels like death. This isn't connection, it's dependence. And the person controlling the supply controls you. They don't need chains or threats, just inconsistent reinforcement. Praise you one day, ignore you the next. You'll work yourself to exhaustion trying to figure out the pattern. There isn't one. That's the point. Unpredictability breeds anxiety. Anxiety breeds compliance. Here's the test. Stop seeking validation from someone for 1 week. Watch what happens. If they immediately escalate their attention, they were manipulating you. If they punish you with coldness or guilt, they were manipulating you. If they try to make you feel selfish for needing space, they were manipulating you. Real respect doesn't evaporate when you stop performing. But most relationships are built on performance. You play your role, they play theirs. The moment you break character, the dynamic collapses, and that collapse reveals what was always true. They didn't value you. They valued what you provided. Think about the last time someone praised you. What did they want? Not always immediately, but eventually. The compliment before the request. The warmth before the ask. Manipulation hides in generosity. They give you validation knowing you'll feel obligated to give something back. And because you crave approval, you comply. You call it being a good person. They call it leverage. The difference is awareness. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every kind word becomes suspect. Every gesture of support gets analyzed. You start asking yourself, are they being genuine or are they making an investment? And the uncomfortable truth is, most of the time it's both. People can feel warmth and still use it strategically. Emotion and manipulation aren't opposites. They're tools in the same hand. The need to be liked blinds you to deceit. Those who crave respect see manipulation before it strikes. You think being agreeable makes you valuable. It makes you invisible. People don't respect what they can easily predict. When you always say yes, when you always accommodate, when you always bend, you become furniture, useful, but forgettable. And the moment someone realizes you won't push back, they stop treating you like a person. They treat you like a resource. Approval seeking isn't kindness. It's fear dressed up as virtue. Watch a room full of people when a difficult decision needs to be made. The The ones seeking approval stay silent or agree with the loudest voice. The ones who command respect state their position without apology. No hedging. No, I think maybe we could possibly consider. Just clarity, directness, boundary. The approval seeker thinks they're being diplomatic. They're being erased. Because every time you soften your stance to avoid conflict, you teach people that your opinion has no weight, that you can be moved, that you're not a threat. And in the psychology of power, anything that's not a threat eventually becomes a target. I've seen this destroy careers, relationships, entire lives. A woman who never said no to extra work, convinced it would prove her value. She burned out while others got promoted. A man who always agreed with his partner to keep the peace. She lost respect for him, then lost interest. He couldn't understand why being agreeable pushed her away. Because beneath approval seeking is weakness. Not moral weakness, strategic weakness. You're signaling that your needs are negotiable, that your boundaries are suggestions, that consequence doesn't follow when you're crossed. People sense this. They don't consciously think, I can manipulate this person. They just feel the absence of resistance and push harder. Here's what changes everything. Stop explaining yourself. When you say no, say it once. No justification, no apology, no nervous laughter to soften the blow. Just no. Watch what happens. Some people will respect you more immediately. Others will panic, guilt trip, accuse you of changing. Those are the ones who are exploiting your compliance. They'll call you cold, selfish, difficult. Let them. Their discomfort is proof you were being controlled. Real connection doesn't collapse when you set a boundary. Manipulation does. The people who truly value you will adjust. The ones who don't will reveal themselves by doubling down on guilt. That revelation is the gift. You finally see who was with you and who was using you. You were taught that being nice keeps you safe. It doesn't. It makes you a mark. Predators don't target the aggressive or the cold. They target the agreeable. The ones who smile through discomfort. The ones who override their instincts to avoid seeming rude. You feel something's wrong, but you suppress it because you don't want to be paranoid. That suppression is what they count on. They push a little. You accept it. They push more. You rationalize. By the time you realize you're being used, the pattern is entrenched. And breaking it feels impossible because now you're the bad guy for finally enforcing a boundary. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. The moment you stop seeking approval, you become dangerous. Not because you're cruel, because you're unpredictable. And unpredictability is the only real defense against manipulation. People subconsciously test your boundaries, fail once, and they learn you can be controlled. It starts small, a minor disrespect, a subtle boundary crossed. They watch your reaction. If you let it slide, if you laugh it off, if you say nothing, they file that information away. You've just shown them where your limits aren't, and they'll return to that exact spot, pushing slightly harder each time. This isn't malice, it's human nature. Everyone tests for weakness because survival depends on knowing who will fold and who will fight back. You think you're being mature by ignoring small slights. You're being catalogued. I watched this play out with a business partner once. He borrowed small amounts without asking, took credit for ideas in meetings, made decisions without consulting me. Each time I told myself it wasn't worth the conflict. I was being reasonable, flexible, professional. He wasn't testing my patience, he was testing my spine. And when I finally confronted him months later, he acted shocked, as if he hadn't been slowly eroding my position the entire time. But he knew. They always know. The test isn't accidental, it's reconnaissance. They're mapping your tolerance for disrespect, measuring how much they can take before you snap. And if you never snap, they'll take everything. Here's the pattern. Someone crosses a line. You don't respond. They apologize, not because they're sorry, but because your silence worried them. They need to know if you noticed. If you accept the apology without consequence, they relax. The test is complete. You've confirmed you're controllable. Next time, they won't even apologize. They'll just take, and you'll justify it. Tell yourself relationships require compromise, that picking battles is wisdom. But there's a difference between compromise and capitulation. Compromise is mutual. Capitulation is one-sided erosion, and the person doing the eroding will never stop unless stopping costs them something. Watch how people treat those who enforce boundaries versus those who don't. The ones with clear limits get respect, even from manipulators. The ones without limits get sympathy at best, contempt at worst. You've seen it. The friend who always cancels last minute. They do it to the people who always forgive them. The colleague who dumps work on others. They target the ones who never refuse. The partner who takes without reciprocating. They stay with the one who accepts it. It's not personal, it's strategy. They've tested, you've failed, and now the dynamic is set. Breaking it requires something you've been avoiding: conflict. Not aggression, not cruelty. Just the willingness to let someone be uncomfortable with your boundary. Most people can't do this. They'd rather suffer than disappoint. You think enforcing a boundary will damage the relationship. It will, but only if the relationship was built on your compliance. Real connections survive boundaries. Exploitative ones don't. When you finally push back after months of acceptance, you'll hear predictable responses. You've changed. You're not the person I thought you were. Why are you being so difficult? These aren't observations. They're manipulations. They're trying to guilt you back into weakness. Don't fall for it. The person who's angry that you've stopped being a doormat was never on your side. They were on their side, using you as a resource. And now that the resource is setting terms, they're panicking. Let them panic. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your survival is. And survival requires that people fear crossing you more than they enjoy your approval. Fear doesn't mean terror. It means respect for consequence. It means knowing that taking from you costs something. Manipulators use guilt as emotional currency. They make you feel bad for saying no, so you never say it again. Guilt is the cleanest weapon in psychological warfare. No bruises, no witnesses, just the slow erosion of your ability to protect yourself. You set a boundary and suddenly you're selfish. You prioritize yourself and suddenly you're cruel. You refuse a request and suddenly you've failed as a friend, partner, employee. The manipulator doesn't need to threaten you. They just need to make you feel like a bad person for having limits. And if you're someone who prides yourself on being good, kind, reliable, that guilt will control you better than any chain. I've seen this destroy people who should have been untouchable. A surgeon who couldn't say no to family asking for money. He worked himself into exhaustion funding their lifestyle while his own finances collapsed. When he finally refused, they didn't ask what was wrong. They accused him of abandoning them, called him heartless, made him the villain in a story where he'd been the only one giving. That's the mechanism. The manipulator frames your self-preservation as betrayal, your boundary as violence. And because you've been conditioned to avoid being the bad guy, you break, you comply, you bleed yourself dry trying to prove you're still good. But they don't want you to be good. They want you to be available. Here's how guilt manipulation works in real time. Someone asks for something unreasonable. You hesitate. They immediately say, "It's fine. I'll figure it out myself," with just enough hurt in their voice to sting. Or they bring up everything they've done for you, as if relationships are ledgers that must balance. Or they say, "I thought I could count on you," turning your refusal into a moral failure. These aren't spontaneous reactions. They're trained responses, designed to make you so uncomfortable that you'd rather comply than sit with the guilt. And it works. You apologize, you explain yourself, you eventually give in, and they've just reinforced the pattern. Next time, they won't even need to guilt trip you. You'll guilt trip yourself. The antidote is simpler than you think, but it requires killing a part of yourself that feels essential. You have to stop needing to be seen as good. Not stop being good. Stop needing the validation that you are. Because as long as you need others to confirm your morality, they can control you by threatening to withdraw that confirmation. When someone tries to guilt you and you feel that familiar panic, that desperate need to explain, to justify, to prove you're not the monster they're implying you are, that's the hook. Don't take it. Let them think you're selfish. Let them tell others you've changed. Let them cast you as the villain. Their narrative doesn't define your reality unless you accept it. And the moment you stop defending yourself against false guilt, you become immune to their primary weapon. You weren't taught this. You were taught the opposite. That good people always help. That sacrifice is noble. That putting others first is virtue. And it can be, when it's chosen freely, not extracted through manipulation. But most of what you call generosity is just guilt compliance. You give because you can't stand the emotional discomfort of refusing. You sacrifice because disappointing someone feels worse than betraying yourself. That's not kindness. That's cowardice dressed in moral language. Real generosity comes from surplus, not depletion. When you give from a place of fullness, with no resentment, no expectation, no fear of judgment, that's power. But when you give because someone made you feel like a bad person for considering yourself, that's control. And the ones using guilt know exactly what they're doing. They've learned that your conscience is your weakness, that you'll destroy yourself to avoid feeling like a villain. And they'll keep using it until you decide that being called selfish is less painful than being consumed. What people accuse you of often exposes what they're hiding. Accusation is confession in disguise. You'll notice this pattern everywhere once you start looking. The partner who constantly accuses you of cheating is often the one being unfaithful. The colleague who questions your integrity is usually the one cutting corners. The friend who calls you selfish is typically the one taking without reciprocating. It's not coincidence, it's projection. People see their own darkness in others because that's the lens they view the world through. A thief assumes everyone steals. A liar assumes everyone lies. And when they accuse you, they're not describing you. They're describing themselves. I learned this from a manager who accused me of undermining him in meetings. He'd pull me aside, voice low, eyes sharp, and tell me I was trying to make him look incompetent. I wasn't, but he was. He'd take credit for my work, redirect blame when projects failed, position himself as indispensable while sabotaging others. The accusation wasn't about my behavior, it was about his fear that I'd do to him what he was already doing to everyone else. Projection is preemptive defense. By accusing you first, they shift focus away from themselves. They make you defensive, scrambling to prove your innocence, and while you're defending, they're operating freely. The best manipulators don't just project, they weaponize it. They accuse you of the exact thing they're doing, knowing you'll be too busy clearing your name to investigate theirs. Here's the mechanism. When someone attacks your character without evidence, ask yourself what that attack reveals about them. If they accuse you of manipulation, they likely manipulate. If they accuse you of being cold, they're probably emotionally unavailable and can't handle your boundaries. If they accuse you of being untrustworthy, check your back. They're the one you can't trust. This isn't universal, but it's frequent enough to be a reliable pattern. The psychology is simple. People assume others operate from the same framework they do. A person with integrity assumes others have integrity until proven otherwise. A person without it assumes everyone's corrupt and they're just better at hiding it. The accusation is the tell. Most people defend themselves when accused. Wrong move. Defense validates the accusation as something worth addressing. Instead, reflect it back. When someone says, "You're being manipulative," respond with, "That's interesting." Why would you immediately assume manipulation? Watch them stumble. Because they weren't making an observation, they were projecting a strategy. When someone accuses you of having ulterior motives, they're revealing that they always have ulterior motives. Their mind doesn't conceive of action without hidden agenda because they've never operated that way. Your clarity confuses them. Your directness looks like deception because they're so accustomed to layers of manipulation that honesty seems impossible. They're not seeing you. They're seeing themselves reflected in you. You've probably been accused of things that made no sense. Behaviors you'd never consider, intentions you never had. And you twisted yourself trying to understand where it came from. Stop. It didn't come from your actions. It came from their nature. The accusation is their confession. File it away. Watch if the pattern repeats. If they accuse you of lying, assume they lie. If they accuse you of using people, assume they use people. If they accuse you of being dangerous, assume they fear you because they know what they do with your position. Projection isn't just psychological defense, it's reconnaissance. They're testing if you're like them. If you defend emotionally, they learn you're controllable through shame. If you reflect calmly, they learn you see through the game. And seeing through it changes everything. Because once you recognize projection, every accusation becomes intelligence. They're handing you their playbook while thinking they're attacking yours. Every piece of personal information you share is a weapon in someone else's hands. Speak less, observe more. Silence is the fortress most people never build. You think sharing makes you relatable, vulnerable, human. It does, but it also makes you controllable. Every fear you reveal, every insecurity you confess, every private struggle you expose, it's ammunition. Not everyone will use it, but the ones who will do so precisely when you're most vulnerable. And you won't see it coming because you trusted them with the information when things were good. That's the trap. People collect your secrets during peace and deploy them during war. I watched a CEO lose everything because he confided in the wrong person. Told his deputy about financial stress, family problems, doubts about a major decision. Seemed harmless. They were close. 6 months later, during a board power struggle, every private conversation surfaced, twisted, reframed, used as evidence of incompetence. The deputy didn't betray him out of nowhere. He'd been cataloging vulnerabilities from the start, waiting for the moment they'd become useful. That's how strategic manipulation works. The person listening to your problems isn't always trying to help. Sometimes they're building a file, and the more you share, the thicker that file gets. You think you're bonding, you're being surveilled. Here's what most people miss. The act of sharing creates debt, not always consciously, but psychologically. When you reveal something personal, you've given the other person power over you. They can use that information to help or harm. And even if they choose to help, you now owe them. They hold your truth. That creates dependency, subtle but real. You start filtering what you say around them, not because they've done anything wrong, but because subconsciously you know they have leverage. The more secrets they hold, the more careful you become. That's not intimacy. That's hostage negotiation. Real power isn't sharing everything. It's choosing what to reveal, when, and to whom. And more often than not, the answer is, reveal nothing. Watch how the truly powerful communicate. They ask questions, they listen. They absorb your information while giving nothing of substance back. You leave the conversation feeling heard, connected, like you've made a real bond. But if you replay it, you'll realize they didn't tell you anything. No weaknesses, no doubts, no personal details that could be used against them. It's not coldness, it's control. They understand that information flows one direction in power dynamics, upward. The person with less power shares to build rapport. The person with more power collects to maintain dominance. And if you're always the one sharing, you're always the one at risk. Flip it. Be the listener. Be the question asker. Let others fill the silence with their vulnerabilities while you remain a locked vault. You think this sounds paranoid, cynical, lonely. It's not paranoia if the threat is real. And if you've lived long enough, you've been burned by someone you trusted with your truth. The friend who repeated your confession, the partner who used your insecurity as a weapon during a fight, the colleague who smiled while you vented, then reported everything to management. It's happened. Maybe not with everyone, but with enough people that the lesson should be clear. Secrets are currency, and you're spending yours too freely. Stop trading vulnerability for connection. Connection built on shared secrets is fragile. Connection built on mutual respect and boundary doesn't require you to bleed for it. The people worth trusting won't demand your exposure as proof of loyalty. And the ones who do are exactly the ones you shouldn't trust. Information is power. Stop giving it away. Anyone can speak loyalty. Few can prove it under pressure. Trust slowly. Withdraw instantly. Words are the cheapest currency in human interaction. People will tell you anything, that they're honest, reliable, loyal, on your side. They'll say it with conviction, with emotion, with apparent sincerity. And you want to believe them because believing is easier than testing. But words without evidence are just noise. Promises without track records are manipulation. The person who needs to constantly tell you they're trustworthy usually isn't. Because real trust doesn't announce itself. It demonstrates quietly, consistently over time. And it never asks you to believe before it's earned. I learned this watching someone close to me get destroyed by a business partner who said all the right things. Talked about loyalty, partnership, building something together. Months of perfect words. Then, the moment pressure hit, the moment sacrifice was required, he vanished, took what he could, and left. The signs were there from the start. Small inconsistencies, promises that arrived late or not at all, moments where his actions didn't match his language. But they were dismissed because his words were so convincing. That's the lesson. Manipulators are fluent in the language of trust. They know exactly what you need to hear. They've studied the script, and they'll perform it flawlessly until performance no longer serves them. Then the mask drops, and you're left wondering how you missed it. You didn't miss it. You just valued words over patterns. Here's the test. Stop listening to what people say and start tracking what they do when it costs them something. Anyone can be loyal when it's convenient. The real measure is what happens when loyalty conflicts with self-interest. Do they protect you when you're not in the room? Do they honor commitments when no one's watching? Do they maintain consistency when the relationship no longer benefits them immediately? Most people fail these tests, not because they're evil, but because they're human, and humans default to self-preservation. The rare ones who pass, who choose integrity over advantage, who absorb cost to maintain trust, those are the ones you build with. Everyone else is conditionally aligned. Useful, but never essential, never trusted. Time reveals everything. That's why manipulators rush intimacy. They push for deep connection quickly, share heavy secrets early, create intensity before foundation. Because time is their enemy. Time exposes inconsistency. Time shows whether someone's actions match their words. Time reveals who stays when things get difficult. If someone is pressuring you to trust them now, to commit now, to decide now, that urgency is a red flag. People who operate with integrity don't fear time. They welcome it, because time validates them. The manipulator fears time because time will expose them. So they create artificial closeness, manufactured crisis, false urgency. They need your trust before you've seen enough to know whether they've earned it. Don't give it. Make them prove it. Slowly, quietly, over months, not moments. You've been taught that trust is the foundation of relationships. It's not. Respect is. Trust is the result of respected boundaries being honored consistently over time. You don't owe anyone trust. You owe yourself protection. And protection requires that you stop giving trust as a default and start treating it as something earned through demonstrated behavior. The person offended that you don't immediately trust them is revealing their entitlement. Real people understand that trust is built, not declared. They're willing to prove themselves because they know their actions will speak clearly. The ones demanding trust up front, guilting you for your caution, pressuring you to believe before you've seen evidence, they're the ones who know that time won't favor them. Their words won't match their actions, and they need your commitment before you notice, so they won't get it. Not anymore. You've learned that trust given too quickly becomes a chain, and you're done being controlled by people who've earned nothing but your suspicion. You now see what most people will spend their entire lives missing: the masks, the tests, the patterns. Every interaction is a power exchange, and you've just learned how to stop being the one who loses. This isn't theory. This is survival psychology, and survival belongs to those who see clearly, act coldly, and refuse to be controlled by guilt, approval, or false trust. Most people won't apply this. They'll watch, nod, feel momentarily empowered, then go right back to being used. Because seeing the truth and living by it are different battles. One requires attention, the other requires discipline. You've been given the framework. What you do with it determines whether you stay a target or become untouchable. Now go watch the next video. They only respect you when you do this. Machiavelli. It completes what you've just learned. It shows you exactly how to command respect without asking for it, how to enforce boundaries without explanation, how to become the person people fear disappointing instead of the person they feel comfortable disrespecting. Write this in the comments. I see the game now. Don't just watch. Become dangerous through awareness.